Bethany, we're going to have a great summer. We're talking about the women in the Bible. Are you excited?
Yes, I am. We have so many characters that we're going to pull out from the Bible of amazing women.
So stay tuned.
We'll see you there.
Bethany, can you believe we are on our last episode of our summer series on women in the Bible?
No, I'm sad because that means it's the end of summer. And summer is like one of my favorite times of year. But I really liked this series. So it is sad in both ways. I'm sad it's ending, and I'm sad summer's ending. But there's new things coming around the corner. There always is, right?
That's right. That is so true. And I didn't even think about the end of summer, but okay, now I'm sad too. But I have to say, it went so fast. And it's fun because we're going to close out our summer series with two sisters again, Mary and Martha from the New Testament. And we had one other episode with two sisters. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Leah and Rachel.
Yes, from the Old Testament. So, yeah, this is going to be good. So you and I talked about this.
Do you like how I said that? Leah and Rachel, not Rachel and Leah.
Oh.
So, did you say that? I said Leah and Rachel. And a lot of times people say Rachel and Leah, but Leah was older than Rachel. So I said Leah and Rachel.
And
so.
that makes sense. The older sister gets the privilege, right?
In that situation, yes.
Well, I wanted to say we have two stories that we'll be covering today. The first one's in Luke and the other one's in John. So I thought we could jump to that. And so curious, I want to say interesting, Luke 10:38 through 41. It's only 4 verses, but it's such a good message, right?
Mm-hmm. It packs a punch. I want to kind of give a little history of these gals. And I think we can kind of read between the lines. So it was Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. They all were together, it sounds like. We know that Lazarus was their brother because we know that in the story that's coming up next.
Yeah.
But when we enter the scene, it is Martha's house because Martha is talked about. We don't know her marital situation or anything like that, but we know she's most likely the older sister based on how she responds. We can surmise. Also, she's the one that owns the house. But what I kind of gathered from all of this and both stories is that Mary, Martha, and Lazarus were probably very close. They were a really close, tight-knit family. And I can relate because I have siblings and we're quite tight-knit. And we we debate like an Italian family. I always say we're the most Norwegian Italian family out there because we're loud and we get all into it. We're very passionate about our opinion. So I just think about, I feel like Martha was somewhat outspoken. So do you want me to start reading or would you like to read? Or do you have any thoughts on any of it?
Well, I want to say, first of all, I agree. I think they were tight-knit, and I think Martha was probably the oldest. It does many times say the oldest in the Bible first before the younger, and this is entitled Martha and Mary. Now, that could be because she's mentioned first, too, so I'm not sure. But I want to say one thing. Jesus visits Mary and Martha, and I call this priorities.
Interesting.
And you'll find out why. Yeah, I can start. So Luke 10:38 through 41, I want to say this is a time when Jesus is traveling with his disciples and they're going out to different cities and they are spreading the word. This is where they really started to gain traction in being pointed, I guess, about the message. And they're going from place to place, village to village, city to city. And so we're starting in Luke 10:38 through 41, and it starts like this. Now, as they were traveling along, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. So this is obviously just Jesus at this time. Go ahead.
Guess what town the town they lived in was? Do you know? Bethany. It doesn't say it in this area, but we know because of Lazarus where he was.
Yes.
And Bethany was 2 miles from Jerusalem.
That's right.
So it was like a suburb of Jerusalem.
Yes.
So just to throw a little like where it was in reference to.
Well, I can see
Jerusalem
why you want to do that. It is your name after all. And it's a good name.
A little bit.
Yeah. So
great name.
He entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister called Mary who was seated at the Lord's feet, listening to his word. But Martha was distracted with all her preparations, and she came up to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the serving alone? Then tell her to help me." But the Lord answered and said to her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary, for Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her. And that is the 4 verses. Thoughts on that, Bethany?
Well, it sounds like an older sister, only because 1, I am an older sister, and 2, I have an older sister. So my older sister, I can see her going, Mom, Bethany's not doing anything. I could just hear that. And then I can also hear myself going to my parents like, what about Shekinah Joy? Why can't she do, that's my younger sister. Like, why can't she do this? Like, why do I have to always do this? So
Yep.
I totally understand this sibling. There's something going on, maybe, we don't know. Maybe Mary was always, maybe she was like Anne of Green Gables, where she was like, always like, her head was in the sky. She was always like, do.
Maybe,
like, whimsical, like, we don't know. I'm guessing on all that. But I'm sure there's a little bit of history. And this is interesting to me.
Okay.
She says, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Like, how hip, like, I am serving by myself. Now, the other thing we have to think about is, Jesus often came with people, like he had his disciples.
Yeah.
But we also, people would come and hear him. So I'm assuming she had probably more people around than normal.
Yeah.
Even if it was just the disciples and Jesus.
And if I could just say, when I was reading that, he entered a village. He was by himself. And this was when they were traveling together. So I am curious if maybe they were off doing some task that he gave them and he was going to meet up later. That's very possible because they didn't usually stay at other places when they're traveling. They're usually together. So that would be my guess in that case.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, he was close to Jerusalem, so maybe some of his disciples had family around. Maybe some of them were from Bethany. Who knows? Like you said, they could have gone and kind of scattered and come back together. We don't always know, like, certain dynamics. Maybe this was a place he came often, and so maybe it was the disciples weren't there, but there were people in town. Maybe she invited friends over and said, hey, Jesus is here. I have a guest, come and visit. Whatever.
Could be.
But, to whatever was going on, however many people, she was stressed in the kitchen trying to get stuff together.
What I noticed in this is right away, I used to be like Martha. Everything had to be done before people got there. Everything had to be just right, just so. I had to have everything in order. I knew exactly what I was serving. I needed to have all the preparations ready to go and all of that. So I was there at one time, and it is all about getting things done and getting it ready. And then when I came to Jesus, I was a believer, understood. I slowed down. Big time, like in general. And I'm just more about hearing that good information, that good word, So that came to mind right away. Not to say I don't still like prepare and stuff, but it's way less. It's like what really matters. So that's kind of a message that I pulled out of that as well. But I like your share about the older sister.
Yeah, totally. I'm just like, no, that's my sister. It's funny because I just had a discussion with my sister yesterday, and her and I were debating about some things, about many things, but she wants to win. And so do I. I'm
competitive. Yes.
She can talk circles sometimes around me. And so I'm like, no, this is what it's water in the bridge. But I had this moment of like my Martha in my life. Oh, my Martha. So the next sentence is very interesting. It's short and sweet after she says, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone?
Yeah.
That's what mine says. And the next thing is she's like, therefore tell her to help me.
Oh,
she's
I know.
Telling God, Yeah. Did you catch that?
Oh, I did. I was
like, whoa.
Like, what?
She's kind of gutsy. This is like Jesus.
Yeah.
She's telling Jesus what to do.
Oh my gosh. Oh. It's like a directive. Then tell her to help me. Oh my gosh. Yikes.
But how many times do we want that in our life? We maybe not say that directly to God. Like, you have to do this in order for me to get this and this and this. But I think we do have some. I know in the past I've said, well, God, just do this, make this happen. I'm like, wait a minute. Who am I to tell God how to run my life in the world?
Yeah.
And like my little brain, pea-sized brain, I can't, no, I should not be telling God what to do in my life.
Right.
Or Martha to Mary.
And that's a takeaway too in how we form our prayers. What do our prayers look like? Lord, please, Lord, do this or do that. And it's more like, what should happen here? Your will is best, right? Oh, that is a good takeaway.
Well, can we go and just finish out that last part, what Jesus says to Martha. You know how he says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen the good part, which will not be taken away from her. And do you know the phrase in the Bible, Lord, Lord, when someone comes and he says, I do not know you, depart from me. I was trying to find that verse. That one, when Jesus says things like that, Lord, Lord, or Martha, Martha, it's not always a good thing behind it.
He says truly, truly in the Bible. And that is something very important. When he says something twice, it's very important, whatever it is, whether good or bad. And like you're saying here, it could be a bad intonation, like Martha, Martha, you know, listen, you are worried about many things. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. Just an interesting part about it.
It is. It's very good. Yeah.
All right. Next story.
Okay.
4 verses. And there's a lot in those 4 verses.
Absolutely. And you know, this next story, there's a lot in this too. And we're not going to read it verbatim. We want you to be sure and go and read it in its entirety because there's a lot in there. But this is full. This is a full one. So we're in John 11:5. I want to start there. So do you want to read starting in 5?
Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So he loved this whole family. He was very close with them. So when he heard that he was sick, meaning Lazarus, he stayed for 2 more days in the place where he was. I think that's interesting. He heard he was sick, but he's like, I'm going to stay 2 more days.
Yeah. Let's pause there. First it says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he then stayed 2 days longer in the place that he was. Okay. Now, normally you'd be like, wait, why didn't he run to her? Why didn't he run to them?
Right.
Like it spells it right out there. He loves them. He hears he's sick and he stays 2 days longer. It's like, wait, did they write this wrong? No, because it goes on. Go ahead.
Jesus had a plan.
Yes, he did. And
then after this, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say,
sorry,
I'm going to paraphrase this next part because it's kind of longer. And Jesus has a lot of messages in this story that we're talking about. So, if that's okay with you. So we're going,
that's just fine.
Okay. So he wants to go to Judea. He goes there with his disciples and he goes on to say, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. And then his disciples are arguing with, well, if he's fallen asleep, Lord, he'll recover. And so Jesus had to explain literally sleep meant dead. So Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there so that you may believe, but let us go to him. So God is working through this. That's why Jesus didn't want to go right away. He is going to make this work out for God's glory. And so I'm not going to spoil it. Let's keep reading. So we pick up in, what do you think?
Well, can I read verse 16? Because after all
Absolutely.
this, they're probably traveling while this is happening.
Yep.
And it says in chapter 16, when Thomas, who was called the twin, which I'm like, is this doubting Thomas? Because I feel like he only had one disciple named Thomas.
I do not know if it is or not. I really don't.
That's my guess, right?
Yeah.
It says, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. Because what they didn't want, what was happening is there was a lot of unrest. Remember, this is really close to Jerusalem. That's why I said 2 miles. And so to go back there was a lot of unrest. Like Jesus was not liked necessarily in Jerusalem. So they were like, if we go back there, they didn't like you. So we could have trouble.
Right.
And basically, I think this is interesting. Thomas says, hey, I'm for him. Let's go. Let's die with him. So he's very, I think Thomas gets a hard rap in the Bible, but that was a little side nugget.
Yeah, no, that's good. And just to say we die with him, it's wow. That's wow. That's heavy. That's selfless.
That's bravery.
Courageous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we're in 17. Do you want to read that?
Yeah. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away. That's why I found it. And many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother, which is what people do, right? In verse 20, it says, now Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary was sitting in the house.
Pause, please.
Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord.
Wait.
Okay.
Martha, and this was something that I pulled out. In the first story, Mary was sitting there at Jesus' feet and had his full attention, right? In the second story, Martha, she's the one who came out, heard he's coming, comes out. So there's a difference there. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was really interesting.
I did too. Don't you think she must have had a change of heart?
I think so. Definitely. But go on. It
I
was
think
21.
I think she was like, okay. Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you.
Mhm.
So she has there's something there. She's like, I know that you have a plan. I have seen you work. I have listened to your stories. I've
Mhm.
heard, there's a changed heart there.
Yeah.
It's not the same heart that was in the first story.
Yeah.
And I really see like she has faith right here. She says, but even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you.
Yeah.
And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Like he tells her right then and there, her brother will rise again.
Yes, but he
Martha
meant it
said
a
to him,
different way.
I know that exactly. She took it literally.
Yep.
Like she understood. She says, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. So she's like, she's not saying she doesn't agree with him. She's saying, yes, I know he will rise again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? He's asking her,
Boom.
do you understand?
Mic drop.
And she said to him, Lord, yes, Lord, I believe you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. So she's saying you are God.
Right.
She is making a declaration right there.
So
this is such a powerful.
Right.
Yeah. Go
Right.
ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with you. She is a woman of faith. She believes in Jesus. She knows what he can do, and she believes what he's saying. I do believe you. When he proclaims who he is, do you believe this? And asks her, she's yes, yes, yes. Right. So this is the best part too. His message to us is, this is for everybody out there too. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Boom. That's like a mic drop right there.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the ask or the question that I think you as a listener need to ask. Do you believe this? That's what his last phrase to Mary or Martha is. Do you believe this? And then she goes in and says yes. So the question is to the listener, do you believe this? That Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. That there is life. He brings life.
Yeah.
And you will never die. You will live in eternity with him.
Right.
I mean, do you believe that? That's such a good question.
Right.
Okay. And we're almost there.
Yeah. Well, we can keep going here. So
we're in verse 28. Mm-hmm.
So when she had said this, she went away and called Mary, her sister, saying secretly, the teacher is here and is calling for you. And when she heard it, she got up quickly and was coming to him. Now, I want to pause there too. Why do you think Mary didn't come with Martha in the beginning to see Jesus? Why do you think she didn't come? I was thinking, is it maybe heaviness of grief? She just couldn't bring herself to even get up? Or was she upset with Jesus? Like she couldn't understand why he didn't come to heal Lazarus when he was ill?
Well, and what if Mary was upset at Jesus for not coming?
That's
what I
just said.
He waited 2 days and then he came.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, and then we don't know how long it took to get there. Maybe it was an extra, he waited 2 days before he left to go there. Mm-hmm. What if it was a day or two? It said it was 4 days he was in the tomb.
Right.
So did it take, he waited 2 days when he heard he was sick, and then
could have been 6 days
to get there.
Yeah.
Or maybe 3 days because, right. He didn't come right away, even though he got the news. So she might have been a little ticked off.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah. Well, let's read on and see what happens. She got up quickly and was coming to him. Now, Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in her house were consoling her, and when they saw Mary got up quickly and went out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Therefore, when Mary came where Jesus was, she saw him and fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. So she's acknowledging him as Lord. She's falling to his feet, and she's heartbroken, right? That he didn't come, and that her brother is dead. That's how I see that. And when Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and was troubled. Yes, go ahead.
Can I say one thing? So, Martha went out to see him. She says the exact same things. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.
Yeah.
She has a little caveat, and her caveat is, but I know that you have, a plan, basically. Like, she's not blaming everything on him. But Mary, on the other hand, she has no caveat to hers. She said, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. End of story. I think we can take from this a little bit. I know we're reading. she was mad. She was upset. Like, she lost her brother for one thing, and Jesus didn't come. And so Martha is in a different place spiritually, I believe, than Mary. Even though Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet, I feel like there was the two interactions between Jesus and Martha and Jesus and Mary were vastly different.
I agree. That's a good point. Okay, and we go on. He was deeply moved in spirit and was troubled, and said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept. Okay, we got to stop there because this is a huge verse. He wept. I remember doing a study on this in Scripture. It's the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. I think some versions say he wept. It's really powerful. It shows Jesus's emotion. It shows where he's at, his heart. It shows he cares, and we can see this as an example and show that to ourselves, like and know that he was human and God right here, right? I mean, this is a big deal. If you want to see who Jesus is about, it shows right here. Jesus wept. He cares for us. He loves us. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yes, but I don't know. I think outwardly they saw it as that, but I wonder if his weeping wasn't different, had a different meaning to his weeping. Remember, he groaned inside his spirit, they don't get it. But I understand, I think outwardly people were looking at him going, oh my word, he has so much, he really loved him. I think his weeping was more for their unbelief, the lack of faith.
That was the second part of the study I did. It's was he crying because of their unbelief? Was he distraught because of that? And so we won't know. We won't know, but it is something to ponder. Let's read on in 36 after it says Jesus wept. So the Jews were saying, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man also from dying?" So Jesus, again, being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Remove the stone." Martha, the sister of the deceased, said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." Again, she's like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Go ahead.
Can I just say, this is like a mirror of what Jesus is, there was a tomb, there was a stone in front of it. Jesus was in a tomb with a stone in front of it. Jesus says, "Take the stone away." His stone was removed by angels, right?
Yes.
Jesus's, right?
Yes.
And he was in 4 days. Jesus was in 3 days. There's so many correlations here we can use, and they don't stop. So let's keep going in verse 60.
Yes.
Or 40, excuse me. Verse 40.
Because I have something to say about that as well. Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they removed the stone. Then Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but because of the people standing around, I said it, so that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." The man who had died came forth, bound hand and foot with wrappings, and his face was wrapped around with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." So I have to pause there and say, to your point, all of those things. This is the redemption message, and this is like a foretelling of what's going to happen with Jesus. He's showing them, and more importantly, he's telling them he is the resurrection and the life. See Lazarus, right? This is what's going to happen. He just died and is now living, right? He was dead and is now resurrected and has life. Ah, so good. To finish it here, it says, "Therefore many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw what had done believed in him." So again, this ties back to what Jesus said in the way beginning before he even came to their house, to Bethany. And he said, "This is going to be for your glory." I don't know if we read that part, but that's why he waited. That's why he waited 2 days. That's why he waited and waited, because he knew this was going to be what happens and more people will believe, as it says in 45. But you had a thought?
So do you know what I noticed about it? It's different than Jesus, because remember we read a story about Mary Magdalene, and when she went in, she saw all his cloths where he had been wrapped in Jesus's body, and that his head piece, this is what stood out to me, bandage around his head, was folded nicely. It was folded neatly at the top.
Mhm.
And that was very specific. And I thought about, he comes forth and he has all his claws, and it's wrapped around his face.
Mhm.
And I thought, like, how interesting that like, Lazarus comes out full of like
Bandages.
what he was, but Jesus left, and he left all that. Like, it's such a difference. It's same but different. It's so cool. I don't know. I really, really liked this
Yes.
thing.
Yes, you
Very
can
cool.
really see the similarities. And I just think the message is what we're supposed to take away from this too. The believers and the non-believers, because the very last verse in 46, I'll just add it. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them the things which Jesus had done. So there's always some that, you see in these stories that don't believe, and they're more worried about the worldly things and what the Pharisees need to know this because, the law is the law and this is not right. And wow, did you see this? And, whatever their thoughts were, it wasn't, I'm going to follow the Lord. This is amazing. It's, ooh, I got to go tell these people who are in power in the world, and they're going to want to know about this. And that's more important because they're the leaders,
Yeah, if you go to 53, it says, and from that day on, they plotted to put him to death.
Yep.
So the whole, this is the precursor to what's going to happen with Jesus dying on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus had a plan to go there because this needed to happen so that they would begin to this plotting. Like, it all has a plan. God has a plan.
Yeah.
God has a plan. And Jesus was part of that plan. And so it's a very good story. What a great one to end on.
Yeah.
Can I just say that?
Yes.
Salvation message right in the middle.
Yeah, right? And I wish there was a little bit more about Mary and Martha at the end. Like, what were their responses? What did they say next? Because obviously they had the seeds of faith. They were believers. And I just wonder what happened next. One of those cliffhangers where it's like, when is the next series coming out?
Mary and Martha, the sequel.
Yeah, exactly. But, oh yeah, such a good redemption message in this last story. Yeah. So what about closing thoughts on the summer series? I think it would be worth talking about a little bit. You want to go first?
Well, I think we talked about some really big characters like Esther and Ruth that have like books of the Bible named after them. And then we talked about like Priscilla, who's very minimally has an influence in the Bible, or even Mary Magdalene. I just think like it doesn't matter if you're really in the big lamplight or you feel like you're insignificant. God can use you. No, if you let him, if you allow him to be used, if you allow him to work in your life. And so that's my takeaway is, don't underestimate small beginnings, or I don't have a say, or I don't, whatever. I don't have I'm not, who am I? It doesn't matter. God will use you if you allow him to use you. And if it's small things, he has to trust you in small things, and then he can entrust you with big things.
That's good. I love it.
That's my takeaway.
Yeah. And as we pointed out throughout this is, for me personally, I think the deeper dive has just broadened my perspective on these stories and these characters. It's been really, really good. One thing that I want to say though, is there's many characters that we covered in each story, but who's the main character in all of them? God. He's working in all of these stories and through all of the characters, through all the people, and he works through our lives. He works through our stories. So
Amen.
I want you to remember that too. And I do challenge all of you to choose one of your favorite stories we talked about this summer and read it yourself and see what pops out to you. See how God speaks to you through it, through his word. And Bethany, this has been a fabulous time. And we have more coming too this fall. Look for that. And you ready to sign off, my friend?
Yes, remember to pour
out
your
joy.
I pray, Lord, right now as the person who is choosing you for the first time or renewing the relationship, Lord, that they will pray something like this. Lord, I have sinned and I have fallen short of the glory of God. I cannot do anything. I cannot be good enough to get into heaven, Lord. Jesus is the way and the truth and the life, and I see that and I believe that and I receive that into my heart, into my life, into my being, Lord, and I ask that you would take away the sin, cleanse me from all unrighteousness so that I can live in the home with you in heaven for eternity. And I ask these things in your wonderful holy name. Amen.